everybody, it is Cinnamon Cootie, your TheArtSherpa, and this is a Patron live. It is a gorgeous watercolor landscape, but there's a lot of cookies in this lesson. So you definitely want to catch this one because I'm going to show you some exchange information, and you guys are going to be the first group that I test my thinking on explaining this out on. So you guys are going to be like, first look. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps me go live, just at all, because like I don't do it without him, like on the phone. But it's not really a good class. So let's just hop on into this watercolor live.
All right.
I see a lot of people. Oh, and I just want to say hi, Stephanie. I see you. It is. The only time I see my friends anymore is when I'm teaching class and they're in the chat. So I'm going to say, hi, friend. How are you doing? Oh, I've been seeing your classes. They look so good. All right. So, sorry, had to catch up because I haven't been able to get online and Skype is working and you're about to see why. So tonight we're going to paint this. But you might have noticed in the group that I posted kind of a big announcement. This is going to be part of a whole thing for 2021. I am creating a consistent palette for the YouTube classes and for the Watercolor Wednesday classes.
You have created something.
Right. And the idea of this is then we could easier make a kit and we can make a custom one that is for us down the road, and also people can buy the materials and know they're going to be used all year, which I think really helps you guys find sales and stuff like that if I'm just using the same things again and again. Now, patrons, we might use some black watercolor paper. We might use some Paul Rubens, but you will get like early notices of any interesting or weird art materials, so it's easy for you to get. If you saw in the group the post, and then also in the description of this video, there are 3 affiliate links for each of the colors. I just have spent days with Amazon getting those in there. And the reason there's 3 is that stuff sells out all the time, right? So that way you have another alternate.
It does.
You can also use it as a shopping list if you want to shop Dick Blick or Jerry's or all of that. I don't mind that at all. So this is about this moving towards consistency and making things easier. Like that's my whole mission in 2021 is just to make things easier. Part of that. So we have this new color palette. Dun, 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 and when it is all done, isn't this gorgeous? This is just
really
the
great.
best. So it's a Pyrrole Red, a Quinacridone Magenta, an Opera Pink, which the Opera Pink is right there. If ever you want to know what the pure colors are in a color chart, they always go across the diagonal. A transparent Pyrrole Orange, a Hansa Yellow Medium, a Nickel Azo Yellow, a Quinacridone Gold, a Phthalo Green, a Phthalo Blue, because then I can just make Phthalo Turquoise. That way you don't have to buy an alternate Phthalo Turquoise. A Ultramarine Blue, a Burnt Umber, and a Payne's Gray. So this color chart is where we're going. And there's 144 colors here. You guys got, this is edition 1. Eventually this will be part of something like that. Maybe people can buy on the 140-pound paper to paint on themselves in packs. We're working on that. There'll be more graphics. They'll be pretty. But you guys got that first kind of look at that. And you have a blank one you can fill out yourself. Now, here's the genius.
Oh, my gosh. Hold on. I'm going to have to back the camera out.
Huh? Okay. So say you bought a different color set. Maybe you got the Artist Love set. Maybe you got the Sennelier set. Maybe you have a different set. Doesn't matter what it is. You also have this to print out.
You can forward it up a little bit.
There's a blank you can color in with the paint you have, because as you know, different brands kind of have different tones and colors. There's one that you can print out, and how this works is, and I just want to show you this. I will chapter this video so you guys can go, oh, I just want the lesson, and skip to that. But it's just like, what if you had this set or this set, and you were like, I don't know what colors I could use here. Well, I've got 1 yellow in this set, right? So I would take this here and I would see, where is this close, right? This is a yellow light. This is in that lemon yellow range. So it's really a halfway mark between those two. So if I was doing a lesson with me, and this is literally for you to swatch out your colors, right? You are literally swatching out your colors. Now I've got this sort of reddish orange, and I can come here and be like, wow, that's redder than this, closer to that, but it's a little bit redder. So I would, in my choice, kind of be using this when I was using Pyrrole Red and transparent Pyrrole Orange. I have this sort of deeper red here, I think the two of these would start to get me to either one of these colors. I've got Quinacridone Gold. It's not that far off of Burnt Sienna. It just is a particularly wonderful color that makes some surprising mixes when you're doing the color charts. I don't really have anything here that would be a good approximation for Opera Pink. I have this, and this is going to be this is that carmine that came in the set, is going to be between these two colors. I might run out and get an Opera Pink, right? But that's just one color that I would have to run out and get before I use these up. This set actually happens to come with a Phthalo Green, interestingly enough, but as you can see, not really the same. Or is that forest green? It might be a deep green. But it's not quite the same, but it's close enough. We do have an ultramarine, so I could swatch that here. Not bad. I've got Phthalo Blue, so that's pretty close.
Can you tell that Cinnamon's been excited about this?
I've been working on this all day. Like, how can I help you guys, like, learn exchanges, right? The burnt umber, they're not bad. So you could paint along with me, even though I'm using these colors and using this as a map to know, oh, I'll use my red orange here, or a mix of my red orange and my bright red to get the Pyrrole Red. Like, that's what I would do, is I'd probably take a little bit of these two, trying to get there, and then I might come over here and, work perhaps a little yellow into it to get there. See, I can kind of work it. I'm like, oh, that's where that would be. It gives me a chance, and then I've got Payne's gray here so I can test this. This is a pretty high-end set. It's a pretty one-to-one comparison, but maybe I have, a nice, fun travel economy set with these colors. These are very different colors, but the yellow, right? Doop-a-doop. Not too bad. Not terrible. I've got this orange. Let me get it clean. I have had it kind of dirty because I paint with the things. And this is not bad. It just might need a little more red in it to hit that orange. All right. I've got the Quinacridone Gold, and I think the Burnt Sienna. And honestly, the Burnt Sienna with a little bit of orange probably will come real close. All right, here's my red, and it's not real close to the pink that I have, but notice this right here. This is, interestingly enough, my Ultramarine Blue and this color. Isn't that crazy? But that's how I got that. So it's not too bad. So I could take this color and this in my palette and swatch it. I've got some phthalo. It's a little bit bright, but not bad. So a lot of times I'll say to people, you can use what colors that you have. And they're like, what does that mean? And this is what that means. It means you take the palette that you have and look at the colors that you're going to be using, and you make approximations. And you can use this color chart. I've got a blank one uncolored in, and I have one that's colored in that you can match to. This will also sort of let you know in your paint sets what would be equivalent. And again, you guys have them in the group right now. You can download them and print them out. John's working on figuring out how we can do these nice 11 by 14 versions for you on the watercolor paper.
Oh, I already
in packs
know.
And stuff like that. He's working on it.
I have it solved.
So, here's my Da Vinci set of, I think these are Da Vinci. My set of, Patty will tell me because she gave these to me, but they're really good. Set of watercolors. These are made out of California. You can see that I've got a pretty close color here. The B is a Hansa Yellow Medium. Yeah, look at that. Hansa Yellow Medium. It matches across there. My C is a Da Vinci Orange. That looks a lot like a transparent Pyrrole Orange, doesn't it? I've got a Quin Burnt Orange here. Gosh, that's pretty close. Oh, you want to see some of them real quick? Patron privileges, come here. So, because somebody said it'd be nice if there was something. John went to see if he could make a thing. So if you're interested in a thing, let John know. This is the same two pictures again and again and again.
There's three different pictures that are just bound together. And I think
that's not the final version. He was just like, can it be done? Here, I'll get this back to you. So that is how, when I change up the color palette, you don't have to freak out or worry or go, oh my gosh, I have to buy all new paint. Acrylic can be kind of a problem. I'm going to come up with a version of this for acrylic as well, but watercolor is not. I could do this with Artist Loft paint. I could do this with whatever, and as long as you have this base place to start, you can look and go, how close am I and how is that going? Kim says it's awesome. Valerie says it's awesome. All right. So aren't these gorgeous? I love this palette for 2021. It's just like, that's what 2021 needs to be about. I know that Pantone said it was yellow and gray, which we do have in this palette. We have the two Pantone colors in here. But I really think 2021 should be about making things easier and calmer and maybe even almost boring. Almost boring. So easy, so predictable. So this is what we're painting. I'm going to be using this palette today to do that. I've got the new palettes posted for everything, acrylic and watercolor. Let me show you how to sketch this in.
All right.
So I have this handy dandy tool called AAT square, and I kind of already know this. At the 5-inch mark here is where my horizon line is going to be starting. I'm going to take the Cretacolor graphite aquarelle pencil. This is the 8B. There is one of these on Amazon for $9. That seemed crazy.
$9.
So, yeah. So in the affiliate links, until they blow it up in price, always check those affiliate links against industry standard pricing, because the Shark Bowl is now like $80 or some crazy amount of money. So
it's no longer 20.
It's no longer 20. So you got to check those things. I will try to tell you if I see it, and you can always let me know if they're inflating the affiliates. And by the way, you can report price inflating, can't you?
Can I make a suggestion? Stop by your local pottery shop. They probably have something way cooler than that.
Yeah. We're actually going to talk to our local pottery shop about doing some stuff for us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come in here. It's right at the 6.5-inch mark. So my horizon line is really here, and I can make a light pencil mark. And look at me. I have my horizon line. So I know how far my landscape's going to go back this way before my side hill comes down. And that's really, I don't need too much. My side hill starts at the 5.5-inch marks. Not so much higher. We'll put it there. And it will end up over here. Always make the noise. At about 6.5 inches. Sometimes the traceable is awesome, but sometimes all you really need to know is where stuff begins and ends. So, putting this to the side, if I know that my hill is going to kind of come down like this and go forward a bit, right? Then it's pretty easy for me to say landscape, landscape, and I'm just going up and down with this line saying, oh, landscape. Some landscaping. This particular inlet comes out, goes in, out, kind of a little double scoop, out. It's very light what we're doing. But if you're looking, we're just looking for this line. We're just taking in here, we're going out, in. We're just going to find those little moments, those little marks. There's another little bit of one over here. I'll let you know what that height is. So if you're measuring along, it is at 2.5 inches. It's going to come up about 2.5 inches, and we'll say that it's actually up and back. This is sort of two frozen land masses. They're kind of fun to do together. I very much like them. And that's all I have to do to sort of sketch that in. I will show you the house real quick, because the house is sort of a fun little thing to do, this little barn here. First, we're going to do a little triangle. Yep, maybe a little triangle. Little triangle with some shading there, and then bring a little wall down. Bring another little wall down. Little bit of the building goes back. It's a small little kind of like little cabin, little shack. It's not big. Come back again. Everything is just little parallel lines that we build off of each other. If I need more snow, I just give it more snow. Just go, hey, cabin, you need more snow. And that's all I need to know about the cabin. Now, I find when I draw flat, my lines don't stay straight. They tend to get off straight. So I like to go back with my T-square and sort of check some of those lines so that the stuff that feels very structural to my mind does that very, very well. All right, so little building is there. That's what we've got there. Now I'm going to take Sharky over here, and let's talk about how the sky is done. So this sky is done in a blooming method. The paper will be wet, and we'll be working wet into wet, which means the paint will go out fairly quickly. And we're going to kind of put it out loosely, very likely with, I can use my Escoda round, or I could use my 3/4 inch oval. You could even use one of your quills. It doesn't have to be what is a sharper, tighter precision brush, because we're just putting out loose and light, free bits of color. The trick to making it look like clouds will be to kind of plan and leave some space between areas and allow the paper to rest. Like a Polaroid, like a photograph, when you're watercoloring, if you allow the paper to rest and not keep painting and moving the paint where you want it to be so precisely as we do in acrylic, a lot of times these little magic moments will happen. I will show you how I get this. In the interest of going quickly, I'm going to just grab my bigger brush, and I'm going to come here, and above my little barn line and skyline, I will go ahead and pre-wet my paper. I'm not going to mist it with a micro mister, because I want the clouds in the sky to stay up here, and if the paper is dry, they're trapped. Now my paper's damp. This works best on a 140-pound watercolor paper cold press. I like cotton because the cotton stays the right amount of damp for the right amount of time, but the Studio watercolor, the Strathmore watercolor paper is just fine. I'm going to let's put out a little bit of our Hansa yellow. This is just whatever yellow it is. So on the card, we're talking about the Hansa yellow medium. That would be like a cad yellow medium. The new B word yellow. I can never say it. It's like Passamaquoddy pink was for us back in the day. So it's our base, medium. We're going to also put out we're going to use some of our transparent orange, which is in my palette here. We're going to use Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, and I'm going to use, I think, based on my color chart, I'm either going to use Quinacridone Magenta or Opera Pink. If you don't have Opera Pink, use the Quinacridone Magenta, because I see the colors that I'm wanting around the Opera Pink and around the Quinacridone Magenta where it gets involved with the Ultramarine Blue. So that's one of the ways that I can use these charts to know what I'm kind of doing. All right. But let's start with our lightest color, the yellow. I'm going to dip in. Now, the new colors we're going to be doing in tubes, and that is so that we can wet out the paint like we are right now and do like lots more expressive pieces. I'm going to take my sky and puzzle in loose little areas. These are going to be not always even touching. I'm getting this kind of wet again, just making sure it stays wet because we did a little bit of talking. I'm not trying to be like that guy from the 80s, but sometimes you got to move along. Let's grab a little bit more of the yellow. Let's put it a couple places. Isn't that beautiful? This is the QOR brand of watercolor. So I like Holbein, I like QOR, I like M. Graham, I like Da Vinci, and I like Sennelier. I am not as fond of Winsor and Newton. Now, I have that nice patching in, and you can see that I've left spaces in these wet areas between each other. I'm going to get some of my orange, and I'll bring it right here to my palette. And let's, on the toe of the brush, tap out in an irregular way.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move in on the zoom.
I think this one's actually going to be even prettier than the study. To be really honest.
Just don't lean forward because I'm super zoomed in on you.
Okay, I can actually do this one from a bit back. Notice that I leave a little space between the yellow and the orange to allow things to develop. So now I'm getting that to go. This is This came in the set with a number 8. There's a set of 3 silver brushes, and then this one came with it. And so I was like, oh, that's okay. And I've just used it since. I've used it for about, 3 years now? So I've just used it for a minute. I'm going to put out let's put out the Opera Pink. You use Quinacridone Magenta if you don't have the Opera. The Opera is this bright pink. Use whatever matches the Quinacridone Magenta if you don't have an equivalent to that. I'm going to wet this out, load it into the brush using my reference. This is the Holbein Opera. Now, Holbein, if you noticed how the core watercolor just flowed and bloomed and became a sky as if it was always meant to be one, that is because the blending agent is in the core and it allows for that wonderful magic to happen. To get that same result from Holbein, you would need to use oxgall mixed into the paint on your palette a little bit. And then it would create the same blooming. Holbein is a tight watercolor because it's a Japanese company, and traditionally Japanese artists prefer to choose whether their paint travels or not. They want to add the flow agent. They don't want the company to do it for them. So we don't see that as much happening without that. Now I'm going to add my wonderful ultramarine blue here. And where it touches the luminous opera pink, we're going to be seeing some purple sort of develop on the surface. And I can always take a little of it to my pink here and even kind of force some purple. I'm going to continue to wet this out because this paper has started to dry over here. I don't mind if a little of the purple pigment is on my brush. It's not going to hurt me in any way. It's better that I have some wet control going on here. So little bits of the blue can be happening here, the ultramarine blue. We've got a little bit of the purple going on here. And that is the ultramarine blue and the opera pink, but you can make this a great purple with the quinacridone. I'm going to continue to come here and push this out like this. I'm going to get some of my ultramarine like right on here pretty strongly because remember our watercolor color shifts just like acrylic can, so it lightens as it dries. You need a little bit darker to really show. Notice I'm not going over areas like too much again and again and again yet, and that is because I want this to sort of develop. I'm going to add bits of my phthalo into this. Let's add a little wiggle here. Allow it to just travel like it's doing. Don't stop its journey. I'm going to pull some of the turquoise blue over here, which is my phthalo blue. I can always come into my quin and my opera pink, which is really kind of, I think, a quinacridone color. The quins are pretty amazing colors. And I can put little bits here. I can wet out my paper. If I have too much water, I will brush the brush out here. Get into right here, and we can come in with just a little bit of yellow. I don't take out my white. I don't take out my interesting cloud formations. I'm just coming back with little spots of pigment, which will push into what's already there. I'm going to really come along here. And I may take a bit of my, you take your quin in Hansa yellow or bright yellow or primary yellow, whichever one you've matched in. And we're going to get a really crazy, vibrant orange from this moment. If you have an area that's gotten dry and you need to soften, take the brush, rinse it out so you know what's in there. Bigger brushes will need a better rinse out. And you can add just a little bit of water, but you don't want to work it. Now this sky, needs to rest and think about what it's done. So, and what it needs to do.
That's
it needs
funny.
to contemplate its
You need
life.
to rest and think about what you've done.
You do. You need to. So when I'm painting a sunset, if there's a reference, it's kind of easy to remember this. If you're painting kind of an emotional sunset, you want to remember if you have a light source, those colors will be warmer. They'll be more on the warm side of the color wheel, and the reds and the oranges and the yellows. Where the sun is, right? If it's like a very bright kind of sunset, you're going to have those bright yellows even focally there. And then as it moves out, the colors will begin to cool a bit. Sometimes you'll see them go from yellow to that green to that blue. Sometimes you'll see a variety of like fiery colors. I really love when you catch the cool blues of the evening coming in and a kind of central focus of warm, bright color. It reminds me of Arizona. It reminds me of being, out where that type of stuff is. That's what we're thinking about there. I may come along with a round brush in clean water and just come along my hill and just make sure that I sort of finish that. So there's something there. So do you guys see that resting?
I see.
Shonda says it's a gorgeous sky. Cindy says the sky has done beautiful things. And Stephanie says there's lots of drama in the sky. Stephanie and I agree. Drama needs to stay in the sky and out of our lives.
Yes.
That's not what actually happens.
Yeah.
Drama keeps sneaking into my life. The older you get, the more I understand that it's like from the East, it's like a curse. May you live in interesting times. I don't know the exact origin, and I don't want to attribute it to some place it didn't come from, but yeah. Sometimes you're just like, I just don't need my times to be that interesting. Interesting days can be hard days. Interesting days are like your mail lady is stuck in the driveway because snow.
Yep.
Yeah. Blueberry. All right. So that's looking really beautiful. Now, I can't paint anything right here unless I want it to travel up into the sky. Watercolor goes where the paper is wet. Wherever the water is, that's where the watercolor is going to go. So if I have a wet paper here and I put anything next to it that's wet, it's going to bloom up into it. If I want a hard or sharp edge, I'm going to have to find another place on the paper to work. And I will go ahead and just get my, this is my number 12 Escoda Perla. I love Escoda. They are a fantastic watercolor brush company. The Perlas are amazing synthetics. And then I also have the 1212 in the Jazper Stardust, which is, I guess, the Kolinsky. That being said, I love both of these brushes. It's really just about preference. And also sometimes like maybe you don't want to have any natural animal hair in your brush, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to come here and I will at first wet this out because we want some soft, and then we're going to alternate the soft colors out here, the soft kind of grayed out winter colors. We're going to alternate those with dry brushing, which if you think our last watercolor together, we did a lot of dry brushing. That was a lot of fun. Now I'm going to come in here and maybe get a little bit of my pink, but there's some like ultramarine in there. So this is a nice way to maybe start. Add a little bit of light. But because there's a little ultramarine in it, it cools it a bit. You could do quinacridone here. I don't want the colors to be super saturated at this stage. And here coming in, I need to start to warm them. So I may even get into my Hansa Yellow and transparent orange, just to make sure that as we come to this part of the lake, there's a bit of a lightening, because it would warm a bit. This color is here, this color is here, this color is here, this color is here. It's really fun to do these types of landscapes. They're my favorite because they're almost like little meditations. Not when I'm talking all the time, I realize that, but in general, if you were alone in your studio, it would be very calming and meditative.
I think you're very calming.
He's so married to me. So I'm going to continue to take this sort of ultramarine. Ultramarine is a great color in watercolor. You know, when you're doing anything in winter, it's wonderful, wonderful color. Down here. We're still keeping it very light because we're going to come back with some dry brushing. So I'm barely putting out pigment. By the way, don't throw out your palette paper. This is good tomorrow. This is good 2 weeks from now. This is always good. When it dries, you can reactivate it with water. It's not like acrylic. So this little tube, I don't even know how long I've had it, but they last a really, 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 really long time. The tube is deceptive. Because you'll look at that and you'll think, that's not going to make it a minute. I'm going to take a little of my Pyrrole Red. You could use your any of your bright reds that we talked about. I'm not doing CAD reds in the watercolor just because I think for watercolor, CAD reds can be a bit more dangerous than they are in acrylic. That is not really a researched out feeling. Like I haven't checked all the ASTM research on that, but I just feel like the nature of watercolor pigments and, you know, how it's not as bound. Like in oils and acrylics, it's much more bound. But in watercolor, the binders are less aggressive. So I'm just a little more careful in my watercolors. It's such an easy thing to switch over to Pyrrole, and it's just as luminous, so I tend to. I'm going to add a little bit of that there, just a pop. Just a pop, see? Popped it. I can move some of that pop this way. And see, you can do some movement. You can always move your watercolor, and you can get a lot going on with it. It's just... you need to know when to let it have a think. And it needs to have a think now. It needs to consider and contemplate. While it's considering and contemplating, I might get just a titch of my Hansa Yellow and come here to the corner where the concentration of yellow would be and just glaze in just a peak, not too much of a brighter yellow. Not bad. Doing pretty good. This is still drying, so I can't paint my little red barn yet. And I think I can get away with the snow, because guess what on the snow?
What?
I'll get a little Payne's Gray out here. Payne's Gray in Core Watercolor is one of my very favorites. You will very quickly realize that you will like a color in one company and another color in another company and another color in another company, which is the other reason I gave you some choices. And I love coarse Payne's Gray. It's like, it's so the yummy. So this is going to be a little more dry brushy. And I'm going to come along here. And maybe even a little lighter than that. It's going to be gray, but I just want it to be a little more washed. I'm going to leave some white and push that back. All right, these are little light colors. Winter landscapes can be quite neutral. Some of this will work wet into wet where the colors are touching. But some of this will just using my reference. So just putting that first light. And you can see where the brush goes over it because I haven't pre-wet the paper. There is the first of that dry brushing, and where you have values and things that are happening. It's a bit like seeing shadows in the snow. I don't want to take out any of the white. I'm just adding a bit of the purple with some of the pink in it. Kind of create a sense of what's happening there. Very light gray. And remember, it's going to lighten up too. Don't take away all your white in the snow when you're doing snow scenes. A very powerful color, white, especially in watercolor paper, and you don't want to lose all of it to a moment. I'm going to bring my gray along here because the banks here or maybe a little more colored. I'm using the toe of my brush to control it. Do want it to be more dry brushy here. So I'm just scraping along on from the mid belly to the toe of the brush. There isn't a lot of water, and that allows it to kind of come out rough and dry. Use my paper towel to offload. You want more color, you just put it on there. If you want to soften it, you just add water, and I can come here and get some of that purple. It's a pretty bright purple, right? That we made with the ultramarine blue.
Yeah.
And the opera pink. If I want to make it a slightly grayed out purple, I just add the gray into it. So then I can come along the bank of the lake here, just on the toe of my brush. Maybe kind of dry brush back. A little bit of value and shadow in the snow. Be some there. Now what I love about back here, I'm going to get into my gray a bit. There's this sort of like very dry, rough ground.
Uh-huh.
And that's, you know, rocks and things. I haven't rinsed my brush out. That's starting to think like it might take it might tolerate something. I'm going to pull out a little of my Phthalo Blue, and I'll get into my Hansa Yellow. And this is almost like an aqua. Come back here. So some watercolors are staining. Phthalo Blue is a staining watercolor. Some watercolors are more granular. The pigment will collect with the water as it settles and be pushed and moved around, and you'll really see that separation. Staining watercolor is more permanent on the paper and very difficult to lift. Granular is very easy to lift. It's nice to have both. This would be like a staining layer. You can still use mediums like QOR's lifting medium to lift something up and get a relief of that, but it's nice to have that there. This distant aqua. Distant aqua. Now, while the distant aqua is doing that, I'm going to get some of my Payne's gray again, quite loaded on the toe. The mountain is still a bit wet, and I'm going to come along the top on the toe of the brush. As long as the paper is still wet enough, it should continue to travel down.
That's so cool.
Isn't that fun?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of creating a distant landscape. And, you know, where it wants to be dry, I'll let it be dry. I might come along this edge there and make sure that that's kind of dark. And now I might come and let's think about some glazing that we could do coming down. Maybe take a little of all of this together, kind of create this sort of more muted burgundy. This is my opera pink and my Pyrrole Red and a little of my ultramarine. So match those, what you have, to that sheet, and then just get the closest one. You're still going to get kind of a muted burgundy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to come down and make some water reflections coming down on the mountain. Some might be long, some might be short. These are dry brushed. And that is about, again, working the brush from the mid belly to the toe, very perpendicular to the paper, very light water on the brush. Maybe come get a little of the mountain gray that I have. Now, I might come back with a little mix here of my Ultramarine Blue and my Phthalo Blue, and let's come across.
Oh, you're on the other edge here.
Yeah, I'm going to come across.
Ooh.
Just crisscrossing.
That's so cool.
Isn't that fun? We'll have to let that have a little recovery, a little minute. And then we will probably come through with the gray in a second. We just want that distant lake to be going. Oh, if this is dry, I can take my very bright red.
And barn it up.
Burn it up. Burn that barn red up. A nice little bright red. Just painting it on the toe. Now the pencil is an aqua pencil, so some of that is going to get into my paint, but that is actually to my advantage in this particular piece because I do want it to be somewhat grayed. I'll allow the snow to kind of be a bit there. I'm going to rinse out and I'm going to get a bit of my ultramarine again. And with the blue roof of the barn. And I do want it to kind of bloom down into to what's below. Right? I do want that impact. It's actually really nice and feeds into this piece well. And then when it settles, I can do a little bit of glazing perhaps to cause it to have a shadow. But this actually starts me quite wonderfully into the shadow of the barn. And gives a sense of the patina and everything that you want on the distant building. There we go. Just a little gesture, a little suggestion of something. I'm going to get into my Payne's gray again. I'm going to just use my little round brush here, and I'm going to talk about a little tree, a little distant tree right here. And push up on there, make a nice trunk. You want it to be believable that your tree could hold up some leaves. As we come up, we can just release this. Because you know the thing about a winter tree is generally if it's got leaves like these do, they're dead leaves. This is not a deciduous evergreen tree. And this is somebody who's probably quite full in the summer, like that cashew tree that we just saw on YouTube last night, John. That's a really big tree. That's like a whole park. It's one tree. It's like, I'm a 1,000-year-old tree. Man, I don't want to be the guy that messes up that tree. It just made me think of that guy that cut down the tree that the pioneers used.
Yeah.
And I just thought somebody's going to mess with that cashew tree. Just needs to get out. They need to have guards on that tree, like 724. I'm adding little branches and trying to make it seem.
I'm going to come over and see if I can get a little bit. Oh, let me try this. There we go. I can see it so much better.
I like to do trees. I like they're like little arteries in the sky.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and then I can, if I want to, I can make sure the brush is kind of dry. You can give it a few little taps to be like, oh, your leaves, you got a couple left. It's so sad. What happened? You remember when you were a big tree? It's like, I do remember when I was a big tree. Why you got to bring it up, rub it in. Right now I'm this tree. I'm kind of sad and distantly on a hill. That said, I'm going to get a little of my gray. I'm going to come down a bit in front of my barn. There we go. I'm going to come here and talk about the shadow of snow that will be this other tree and let that have a minute. It needs to have a thing, you know, as you do. When you're painting snow, you have to have, it's really interesting. You want to have little dark spots. These are like little stones and things that have a tendency to happen in different places. So it's a good time to kind of go, oh, do you have a little rock there, a little twig, little moment. And you can be really kind of scribbly about it because they get broken. And the things that are there are not, you know, in their best shape, maybe. They're wintering up. You got to winter up.
I like how that makes it look very icy.
Yeah. It's just enjoyable, right? You know, just a little bit of an enjoyable kit here. And rinse out a bit. I may come back with a little bit of this ultramarine blue and glaze over the top. Couple of places. Talk about this side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get a little bit of this gray. Things are dry over here right now. Make sure they're dry on my brush too. Little dry brush here now. Kind of counterbalancing that softness from the wet into wet work. Giving it, you know, some personality. This is dried a bit. I'm going to come back with some of my Pyrrole Red. And sort of dry brush that as well. Places. A little bit of a thought here. Just rinsed out my brush and I'll come back a little bit of red here. Let that have a bit of a dry and you will get your ultramarine back on your brush. Pretty heavy load. Mm-hmm. Along the roof. That nice second in the process of the paint. I take my clean brush and at this point I wipe off on my paper towel. It relieves some of the pigment. Now I can allow, one of the really great colors is the Pyrrole Red and the Ultramarine. They do some really cool color shifting together and I definitely want to see that happen. So I'm going to let that continue to happen because I likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. More tree perhaps, sir.
I can do more tree.
More tree. So there's this sort of vertical fellow here.
All right.
On the toe of my brush. He is more upright. And then coming from him is like sort of a secondary little trunk. As we've learned from our arborist, this is actually a bad thing. Because I guess the second trunk depletes the main primary tree. Actually, he didn't say any trees were bad. He actually loved all the trees.
Could be not ideal.
Not ideal for a healthy tree. It is not going to fall on your house, I guess is what it is. It's a good idea to just branch these off. You know, sometimes when I'm doing winter trees, try to think about what the tree would be in summer. How would the tree be in summer? A little bit of a shadow come in front of the tree. Some little of those dry grasses that you get. And add a little bit of dark coming up.
Yeah.
You can always tell the tree that, oh, don't you have some leaves left? And it's like, well, like barely, but if you insist.
Got a leaf or two?
Like I do. Be a little leafy. Be a little bit of something. I am going to use the, this is the Quinacridone Gold. You could use burnt sienna. And I'm going to kind of add some of this to some of the gray. It's really nice in the counterbalancing of the gray. I may even come in, put a little bit right there. Right there. Where that next tree could be thinking about being from. Now, I've really got to put that tree from here because I don't want to take out my barn.
Yeah.
Not trying to take out my barn. So I'll let that have a bit of a dry, and I'll come back along my waterway with a bit of gray. Where I need to have shadows. And then I will also kind of glaze in. Glazing is when you take a layer of wet paint over dry paint. It's a little different than dry brushing in that it's smoother, it's not rough. And you're really seeing what's underneath it going through the layer of the paint. There we go. Just a little bit of personality in that frozen stream coming towards us, maybe, perhaps. Up that and that's nice. Sometimes I just want a little personality. I see Colleen and Sharon O'Brien who loves this brush. And then Valerie's, but those trees look so pretty when they have frost on them. The trees around here were so gorgeous yesterday. Yeah, that is really pretty. This is the Escoda Perla number 12. I don't know anyone even at Escoda, so I'm just saying it's a nice brush. And I should add anyone that I know of. Because maybe I do and I just don't remember. I might. It is potentially possible.
Maybe somebody know you worked there but never told you.
Yeah, it can happen. So I'm going to make a thick kind of broken little trunk. This is a tree's a little bit closer and I'm gonna go ahead and pull a little branch there. I really like that. So just a nice darker amount of black. It's a little bit closer. It's less distant. Little bit in front of the barn. Branches coming off, as they do on big trees. So what I don't do on my trees is I don't make forks, which is this kind of a thing. No, I try to avoid that. I can do that there to show it because I'm going to be adding a bunch of kind of dry brush little leaves. Definitely depleted. Maybe get some of my gray here and come underneath this roof. Around our barn door. Just a bit of winter here. That's nice.
Yeah.
Just having its little moment, isn't it? Having its little moment. I like it. Maybe some little final touches of some dark values along the banks, and then we're there, guys.
That's pretty awesome.
So the thing is take advantage of those resources in group. You guys are seeing it first. They're going to keep getting refined and worked on, but they work for you right now, and they will help you use what you have, and not like, I want you to go out, I'm going to share great stuff with you. I'm going to share wonderful colors like opera pink. I'm going to share that stuff. But I want you to always feel like, oh, I can just grab this little watercolor palette that I just bought and not feel like I've got to go like re-kit my studio with a whole new medium, right? And so hopefully this shows you that you can do that you don't have to re-kit your studio. I will warn you, watercolor will make you want to do that. My mother-in-law Linda has a tray. I'll have to show it to you. I'll get her permission to show it to you, with 88 colors on it.
I know.
It's round. You spin it around. It's got 88 colors on it. It's really quite extraordinary. And if you talk to Patty Hoffman, she's got pretty much every color in every collection. I think there's something about watercolor that just says, collect me.
Do you know what happens when you get to 88? What are they? Pans per...
You get to make all the colors? I don't know.
Go back in color time, I guess.
So that's a little watercolor landscape. It's just a chill little thing. You know what? I feel like I know I just signed it, but I feel like looking at it. Because again,
You're looking.
I'm looking, and let me tilt up just a second. Just a bit, and just a second. I just want a little more roof. Is what it is. Just a little more roof, John.
Just a little more roof. Everybody could use a little more roof.
Just a little more roof on the house. You know, and another thing that I might do here, just to make this seem more, is like maybe add some dry, somebody dry and dead right there, growing off the back of the barn. Just 'cause I want that. Sorry, I just wanted a little more roof in that perspective.
Oh, it's so good.
So there's that sky. That sky is fun to do every time. Every time you do that sky, you will get a slightly different variant of the sky. The granulation here is like just extraordinary, isn't it? So
Yeah.
definitely that playing of the ultramarine. Ultramarine is a color I find it's hard to get acrylic artists excited about, but as a watercolorist, you gotta love it. Because it does a lot of cool color shift things. You're going to find that colors that perform for you one way in acrylic, or you felt about one way, in watercolor are like a whole different creature. So that's super fun for me. And Heather K is like, they're like potato chips. And Cindy M says a beautiful winter painting. And Deliberately Creative, Stephanie from Deliberately Creative is like, yeah, you can't have just like one. No, she's like got all the watercolors. I can verify that. Just definitely. And Diane says she has the Escoda #6 and she loves it. So the Jazper Stardust is a Escoda. Here's the deal on him. He's not fast. Not a fast turnaround, but it is a turnaround.
He may not need to be fast.
No, I don't think he needs to be fast. I think he's like the one dude doing this, and I talked about him, and now he's got orders through next year. But you can get him. Here's the trick about Jazper is you can get him to do this bit on any brush you love. So whatever your favorite type of brush is, he'll put the handle on there. Ooh. I don't know if he can do quills, but anything with a ferrule. So if you're like, man, I've got this Raphael, I've got this Da Vinci, I've got this, the old, when Winsor & Newton had real Kolinsky Sable level 9 brushes, those are worth like $500, $600 right now. If you have one of the old ones that's real, You might be like, hey, let's pop a handle on that sucker.
Yeah.
You may not want to touch it either because it's a piece of history and those brushes will never, ever be back again. So you may want to be careful about that.
But if you got one that maybe the dog chewed on, that's a perfect candidate.
So if you're doing Bird in Flight with me, our last one of that is tomorrow. If you are waiting for the Blue Jays, they are scheduled coming up. So I think you should have gotten something about them in this email, and I'll make sure that the legacy patrons get that too. So if they didn't see it from this, they'll see it from that. 2021, look at the upcoming videos on the channel. January scheduled out. I have, between your votes and everything, put your patron calendar together. And we're going to be doing the same colors. So that it's really the acrylic April palette is now the palette. The acrylic April palette is now the palette all the time. We may do something different in patronage, but again, I'll give you that month as much headway as I can. Like if I'm 2 months ahead, I'll be like, hey, we're going to use some gold gesso in February. I don't know that we are. I'm just saying if I know what's coming, I'll let you know so you can shop a sale or look around or decide if that's something you want to add. Yeah, all of January is like scheduled out. And go by the Facebook page if you like these watercolor lessons. All 4 of the watercolor lessons that are coming up on the Facebook page are scheduled out. All the colors are listed there only because I'm letting people know what's coming. I will go back through and let them know, like, the horses is just Payne's gray. We all know it. It's one color painting. Right, all the colors are there so people know what do I need in the class. That includes Frisket, that includes all the stuff. So check out those material lists, check out those links, use it as a shopping guide. We'll be producing shopping guides, and we're working on stuff. Our goal is in the first quarter, as long as the website guys will finish this website to make the patronage much more simple for everyone, for us, for you, for everything. Same amount of content, maybe more. Nobody will lose any. Somebody might get more, but much more simple. So hang in with us for like a couple of months in the mayhem that we have. And then we're going to make it simple. Yeah. Like one clicky, easy, simple. So we have that going on. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. I see moderator Cad Red. It's a separate newsletter because it's a pure patron newsletter for the Bluebirds, but you will all get the newsletter too, and it goes to all the levels above also. Yeah. So it goes, well, the Bluebirds is like everybody patron. Yeah. This is I think she knows the patronage that it is. So I don't know. Everybody have a really good evening. Let's just have a happy new year, right? I'm going to see you guys again, but have a happy new year. Aslan is Tuesday on the YouTube channel. Yeah. There's just so much happening. Do open the newsletters. Open them. There's stuff in them. And there's going to be more and more and more and more. And more. Because I started working last month. And more. 2021. I'm going to be like, yes! Yeah. I'm into it. I'm working so hard for you guys. Well, you guys probably can tell with all the handouts and everything. But I'm working so hard. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.